かった。 もできるよ。パン食べない。惣菜調理パン買ってきたけど、それ食べる？惣菜パン買った。カレーと
とりあえず食パン焼くんですよ。ブロッコリーは入れようかな。
ブロッコリー入れるのは半分でいいよ。なんとも食べるかと思って買ったの。惣菜パン。俺は食べない。
私は食べる分だけ買う。切る？全部食べないの？
まあ焼いてから切ってもいいけど。好きなの横には入れてる。
こっちはカレーパン安く食べるでしょ？
食べない。
食べないの？
惣菜パンは俺は食べないという前提で買ってきた。
なんでしょう。
食べたやつを食べるだけ食べればいいよ。
私は今日は食べるのかな。一つの明日とか。
もうできる。
お腹いっぱいになってるからちょっとどれかな。 は食べない。
よ してきた。 できたよ。終わり。お湯も沸いた。
こんなもんでいい焼き物。
いい。もう。
あ、なんか少なかった？こんなもんでいい。
よし、いいよ、食べて。
めっちゃ
天気よし。すごい天気がいい。食べていい？あれ？
皿出した。
取り皿いらないの？
私だってそんな食べない。
パンはいいの？
パン大丈夫、そこで食べれる。
よし。12時になる。
12時半でだいたい出る。
用意した。
まだちょっと急ぐ。
食べていい？映画とか見たいんだよな、みんなで。
無理。
そんなもんな。一発で止められたもんな。
だってみんなだって画面がさ、見にくいよ。
画面でっかくするもん。
画面越しの画面じゃ見づらいって。だから紹介した方が。やすくんだって画面越しの画面見ようと思わないでしょ？でも
見る。
直接映画見たくない？ちゃんと
見る。
見ないの？
見る。
画像とかモニターの大きさにこだわるでしょ？だって
画面越しで見るよ。
少しでも画像とかさ、画面大きい方がいいよね。映画なんて質はいいよ。
大きい方がいいけど。でも紹介してるんだもん。
うん、 から
だから
紹介すればいいんじゃないの。
ちゃんと
全部
DVD
一緒に見
買って
なくても
見ればいいじゃん。
そうそうだから2時間も一緒に付き合ってもらう時間がもったいないじゃん、見てる人も。
もったいなくない。そこにみんなでああだこうだ言えばいいわ。
みんな集中したいですよ、映
意見も聞きたい。
画に。ヤス君が一番集中したい人なのに。
みんな意見も聞きたいんだ。
なんか1回見た人たちがあだこうだ2回目見て言うのはいいと思うけど。
What have you done or what did you do when you were younger that you think sort of
この
set you
惣
up
菜
to
パン
have
が
a
美味
bigger
しいね、
time?
これ。
The 5 things that I thought about time in college, quite a long time ago, 25 years ago, making life multi-planetary, accelerating the transition to sustainable energy, the internet, broadly speaking, and then genetics and AI. I think, I really was just trying to be useful. That's the
どんな
optimization.
ことやってるの
It's
そ
like,
の人。
what can I do that would actually be useful?
Do you think people that want to be useful today should get PhDs?
Mostly not.
So what,
Yeah.
what is the best way to
Some
be useful?
yes, but mostly not.
How should someone figure out how to be useful?
If somebody is doing something that is useful to the rest of society, I think that's a good thing. Like, it doesn't have to change the world. Like, if you're doing something that has high value to people, and frankly, even if it's like just a little game or some improvement in photo sharing or something, if it has a small amount of good for a large number of people, I think that's fine. Like, stuff doesn't need to change the world just to be good.
Where does that come from, or how do you think about making a decision when everyone tells you this is a good idea? Where do you get the interest to do that?
Well, that's what I'd say. I actually think I feel fear quite strongly, but there are just times when something is important enough, you believe in it enough, that you do it in spite of the fear.
胸がね、下がるって。
People should think, well, I feel fear about this, and therefore I shouldn't do it. It's normal to feel fear. Like, you have to. There'd be something mentally wrong if you didn't feel fear.
So you just feel it and let the importance of it drive you to do it anyway?
Yeah, actually, something that can be helpful is fatalism to some degree. If you just accept the probabilities, then that diminishes fear. So when starting SpaceX, I thought the odds of success were less than 10%, and I just accepted that actually probably I would just lose everything, but that maybe we would make some progress. If we could just move the ball forward, even if we died, maybe some other company could pick up the baton and keep moving it forward. Same with Tesla. I thought the odds of the car company succeeding were extremely low. And people sometimes think technology just automatically gets better, but it actually doesn't. It only gets better if smart people work like crazy to manufacture it. That's how any technology actually gets better. And by itself, technology, if people don't work on it, actually will decline. You can look at the history of civilizations, many civilizations. Look at, say, ancient Egypt, where they built these incredible pyramids, and then they basically forgot how to build pyramids. And then even hieroglyphics, they forgot how to read hieroglyphics. So we look at Rome and how they were able to build these incredible roadways and aqueducts and indoor plumbing, and they forgot how to do all of those things.
What do you think the odds of the Mars colony are at this point?
Well, oddly enough, I actually think they're pretty good.
So like, when can I go?
Okay. At this point, I am certain there is a way. I'm certain that success is one of the possible outcomes for establishing a self-sustaining Mars colony, in fact, a growing Mars colony. I'm certain that that is possible. Potentially something that could be accomplished in about 10 years, maybe sooner, maybe 9 years. I need to make sure that SpaceX doesn't die between now and then, and I don't die, or if I do die, that someone takes over who will continue that.
この形が安くと似てる。
そう。
なんか似てる。 と眉毛がちょっと違う。意外とパッと見似てるか
I was really going on the warning quite a lot. I was warning everyone I could.
I never graduated from college, and this is the closest I've ever gotten to a college graduation.
I reached the pinnacle of success in this world. In others' eyes, my life is an epitome of success. However, aside from work, I have little joy. In the end, wealth is only a fact of life that I am accustomed to. At this moment, lying on the sick bed and recalling my whole life, I realize that all the recognition and wealth I took so much pride in have paled and become meaningless in the face of impending death. In the darkness, I look at the green lights from the life-supporting machines and hear the humming mechanical sounds. I can feel the breath of God of death drawing closer. Now I know, when we have accumulated sufficient wealth to last our lifetime, we should pursue other matters that are unrelated to wealth. It should be something that is more important. Perhaps relationships, perhaps art, perhaps a dream from younger days. Non-stop pursuing of wealth will only turn a person to a twisted being, just like me. God gave us the senses to let us feel the love in everyone's heart, not the illusions brought about by wealth. The wealth I have won in my life, I cannot bring with me. What I can bring is only the memories precipitated by love. That's the true riches which will follow you, accompany you, giving you strength and light to go on. Love can travel 1,000 miles. Life has no limit. Go where you want to go. Reach the height you want to reach. It's all in your heart and in your hands. What is the most expensive bed in the world? Sick bed. You can employ someone to drive the car for you, make money for you, but you cannot have someone bear the sickness for you. Material things lost can be found, but there is one thing that can never be found when it is lost. Life. When a person goes into the operating room, he will realize that there is one book he has yet to finish reading. Book of Healthy Life. Whichever stage in life we are at right now, with time, we will face the day when the curtain comes down. Treasure love for your family, love for your spouse, love for your friends. Treat yourself well. Cherish others.
最終的にはこれが
成功した人が言うアドバイス、体に気をつけて。
最終的には死ぬ間際はそうなる。
福井年の子まで。
It's been nearly 30 years since you started Apple.
I'm an old man. Did
you ever think of giving up?
There were moments where it was pretty tough. But no, I don't think so.
Did you know that when you made the personal computer, though, that this would become a major industry? Did you know like this?
No, it took about a year. before we started this thing. I had a partner named Steve Wozniak, who's a brilliant guy. We showed it to we just made it for ourselves. And we showed it to our friends, and they all wanted it. And so we were busy making these computers by hand for our friends, and it was taking all of our life. And so we decided we better manufacture 100 of these to get, so that we could not have to spend the rest of our lives making them for our friends. And that's how we got into this. We didn't think about starting a company. We were just doing it for ourselves, and then our friends, and the circle got bigger and bigger and bigger. Now there's 25 million people.
So you were having fun.
We've always had fun. The most important thing about this is that if you're going to start something new, you have to feel passionate about it, because it's really hard. It's so hard to start a company. You have to work so hard that if you're not passionate about it, you'll give up. Most of the difference between people that succeed and people that don't is the people that don't give up. They give up sooner than the people that succeed. You have to be passionate about it because it's so difficult. And sometimes people come to me and say, I want to start a company. And I say, why? He says, oh, I want to make lots of money. I said, forget it. That's not a good enough reason. You will not, most likely you will not succeed. Most people that are starting companies because they want to make lots of money. I haven't seen very many of those succeed. The ones that succeed are people that come, sometimes they don't even want to start a company. They just have an idea that they want to get out, express out into the world. And oftentimes they have to start a company because nobody else will listen to them.
There are so many Japanese companies who are now trying to rejuvenate themselves, trying to instill a sense of sort of adventure spirit in their companies. And they would like to know how you do it.
We try to focus and do very few things well. And focusing is hard because focusing doesn't mean saying yes, it means saying no. So we decide not to do a lot of things so we can focus on a few handfuls of things and do them well. We've been focusing on the internet for the last 6-7 years, and that's been appropriate. But the internet is just one of the things we can do with a computer. Let me give you an example. The internet, I love the internet, but the internet has no emotion to it. To deliver emotion, you have to have higher bandwidth. And so most people don't have internet connections that are high enough bandwidth. Most content is not created for the internet to be emotional. And we see at Apple, one of the things we've always felt is that we want to stand at the intersection of technology and humanities. We want to bring the humanist element into these tools and not have them just serve our intellectual side, but have them serve some other sides of us as well.
Why do you think you need to put emotion into it now?
There's a lot of forces in life that tend to funnel us down into this institutionalized path, and where people sometimes forget that that they're very unique and that they have very unique feelings and perspectives. And again, it's the whole computer industry wants to forget about the humanist side and just focus on the technology. A lot of our industry focuses just on more is better, more megahertz and megabytes and speeds and feeds, we call it. But we think there's a whole other side to the coin, which is what do you do with these things? Can we do more than just spreadsheets and word processors? Can we help you express yourself in richer ways? In your music, in your movies, in your photography, and these kinds of things that people want to do. And yet our industry, the whole personal computer industry, hasn't really talked to that side of people before. We just talked to the side of people that has to add up, numbers and write a letter. But there's so much more to it than that. And I think we're finally, with this digital lifestyle era opening, going to be addressing those other things that all of us do, some of every single day.
company that doesn't have the most resources of everybody in the world. And the way we've succeeded is by choosing what horses to ride really carefully, technically. We try to look for these technical vectors that have a future and that are headed up. And technology, different pieces of technology kind of go in cycles. They have their springs and summers and autumns, and then they go to the graveyard of technology. And so we try to pick things that are in their springs. And if you choose wisely, you can save yourself an enormous amount of work versus trying to do everything. And you can really put energy into making those new emerging technologies be great on your platform, rather than just okay because you're spreading yourself too thin. So we have a history of doing that. As an example, we went from the 5-inch floppy disk to the 3.5-inch floppy disk with the Mac.
Before other people, right?
We were the first to do that. We made the 3.5-inch floppy disk popular. Sony invented it, and we put it in the first products. And there were some good reasons we did that. We got rid of the floppy disk altogether in 1998 with the first iMac. We also got rid of these things called serial and parallel ports, and we were the first to adopt USB, even though Intel had invented it. We first saw it in mass on iMacs. And so we have gotten rid of things. We were one of the first to get rid of optical drives with the MacBook Air. And I think things are moving in that direction as well. And sometimes when we get rid of things like the floppy disk drive on the original iMac, people call us crazy.
Or at least premature, maybe.
No, they call us crazy.
Oh, okay.
But sometimes you just have to pick the things that look like they're going to be the right horses to ride going forward.
What do people say? The iPad is crippled in this respect.
Well, I'd say two things. Number one, things are packages of emphasis. Some things are emphasized in a product, some things are not done as well in a product, some things are chosen not to be done at all in a product. And so different people make different choices. And if the market tells us we're making the wrong choices, we listen to the market. We're just people running this company. We're trying to make great products for people. And so we have at least the courage of our convictions to say, we don't think this is part of what makes a great product. We're going to leave it out. Some people are going to not like that. They're going to call us names. It's not going to be in certain companies' vested interests that we do that, but we're going to take the heat because we want to make the best product in the world for customers. We're going to instead focus our energy on these technologies, which we think are in their ascendancy and we think are going to be the right technologies for customers. And you know what? They're paying us to make those choices. That's what a lot of customers pay us to do, is to try to make the best products we can. And if we succeed, they'll buy them. And if we don't, they won't. And it'll all work itself out.
確かに。バフェット。
I go back, the other thing is have the right heroes. I mean, I've always been lucky in that respect. And if the people you look up to are going to form your vision of what the world, how you want to be in later life. And I'll give you two pieces of advice. I would invest as much in myself as you can. I mean, you're your own biggest asset by far. I mean, you've got all kinds of potential. All the people in this room, you're lucky to be in this country, got a good education, but most people go through life using up a very, very small part of their potential. And so anything you do that invests in yourself, that's the best investment you can possibly make. And then I would follow my passion. I mean, whatever turns you on. You know, I was lucky. I found something early that turned me on. But you don't want to take a job just for the money. You don't want to take a job for an organization that you really don't feel good about, or work for people that you don't feel good about. You really want to be excited when you get out of bed every morning. It won't necessarily be the job that you have 10 years later, but you'll be learning so much as you go along. And you know, I took a job with Van Graham, my hero, and it, you know, I never asked the salary, and I found at the end of the month when I got my first paycheck what I was earning, because I just knew it was the right thing to be doing. So I would follow your passion. The worst investment I ever made? How long do you have? Well, I've made some very bad ones, but that doesn't really bother me. You know, it may bother the shareholders, but that's another question. You know, you're gonna make mistakes in life. I mean, there's no question about it. You don't want to make them on the big decisions, you know, who you marry and some things like that. So there's no way I'm going to make a lot of business and investment decisions without making some mistakes. I may try to minimize them. I don't dwell on them at all. I don't look back. The biggest mistakes are the ones that actually don't show up. They're the mistakes of omission rather than commission. We've never lost that much money on any one investment, but it's the things that I knew enough to do that I didn't do. We have missed profits of as much as, you know, maybe $10 billion in things that I knew enough to do and I didn't do. Now, the fact I didn't buy Microsoft way back is not a foregone opportunity, because I didn't know enough to make that decision. But there have been other investments where I didn't know enough to make the decision, and for one reason or another, I either didn't do it at all or I did it on a small scale. I was sucking my thumb when I should have been writing checks, you know, basically. And you know, those don't show up. You know, there's no place where it shows missed opportunities, but I've missed some big ones. The triumphs in life are partly triumphs because you know that everything isn't going to be a triumph. I would never get too hung up on mistakes. I know a lot of people that really agonize over them, and it just isn't worth it. I mean, tomorrow's another day, and you live it forward and just go on to the next thing.
Degrees, and the first thing I do is jump in that cold plunge. So there's not a fucking morning where I want to jump in that. I can't remember mornings like, I can't wait to jump in that thing. But I don't negotiate with myself. I do it for two reasons. One, there's a physical health component. You move your lymph system, and the blood flushes through your whole body. But the main reason I do it, even more than that, for decades I go, I say we do. I'm not here to discuss this shit with my mind. There's mind, and then there's soul and spirit. And soul and spirit, my soul fucking knows. And when I say jump, you fucking jump. Now, does that happen with my water every day? Yes, because I've conditioned it. Does it happen every day of my life? No. When I find it's not working, then I step back up and condition it. And unless I'm willing to take 100% responsibility for what I feel and what I experience, then I'm always going to be a victim to someone. Life is too short to suffer. The most important decision of your life is deciding whether you're truly committed to being happy no matter what. Because life is going to throw all kinds of curveballs at all of us. There's the one thing that's in common in this lifetime is extreme stress. All your entire life you live in one or two states. States of suffering or beautiful states of being. Which is, I got a 90-second rule. What I decided is within 90 seconds I'd kill it. And all you have to do is stop expecting and start appreciating. You look around and appreciate things outside yourself, the people around you, the friends sitting across here, anything of that nature. And then starting to enjoy something. If you start to learn or grow from that, if you love, which to me is an action, if you love, if you give, if you're grateful, suffering disappears instantly. When you get that all suffering is obsession with self, you can snap out of it. But you have to tell yourself the truth. The only suffering is in your mind. It's because this brain is not designed to make you happy. It's 2 million years old. It's designed to make you survive. Happiness is your job. And happiness is a decision, and it's a daily set of practices. Whatever's coming out, I go, this is the mind. I breathe in my heart. Find something I can appreciate. I become entertained by the experience and go, you know what? I'm gonna live in a beautiful state no matter what, because not everything can I control. And the things I'm most upset about, they're fleeting anyway, most of them. And my prayer, a simple prayer, before I walk out on every stage is use me. Use me, Lord. And I know that sounds silly to some people, but it's really true. I'm not an ultra-religious person, but I'm extremely spiritual, and I believe the force of life comes through me, it comes through you, it comes through all of us. And the only thing that gets in the way is all the beliefs we have of how it's supposed to be, all the expectations we have, and I have them too. But I keep weeding them out. When something happens like this happened, I go, oh, worthy opponent. Because in every story of a person's life, they have what they want, and desire, and then they have these needs that they're unaware of. You know, character things that need to be developed. And how do those get developed? Well, if what you wanted, you just took action and it happened, you'd be bored, B, you'd never develop spiritually or your character. And so what happens is opponents show up. And the opponent can be you with yourself. The opponent can be somebody close to you that feels like an opponent. It can be an external force. But if you do battle with this, eventually you battle with yourself. I've done battle for 58 years, and I'm going to keep doing battle the rest of my life, but I'm doing better because I've done battle so often. It's like, why is LeBron James who he is? It's not because he's lucky. You know, I'm going to say, you know, he's lucky. Shit, he may have certain physical values. Well, Michael Jordan, I remember I interviewed him years ago, and I said, what makes you the best in the world? Is it skill? Is it talent? Is it ability? Is it effort? Is it training? He said, I didn't make the high school basketball team my sophomore year. I was cut. He said, what it is every day I demand more from myself than anybody else could possibly expect. I don't compete with other people, I compete with what I'm capable of. It's a muscle. The mind is a muscle. We're all born with muscle, but if it's developed, you trained it. And that means you have to find something that you value more than your pain. You got to get beyond your pain, or you got to use your pain and say, I'm going to use it to become more. That's what my life's been about. Life is always happening for us, not to us.
There's no need even to have a college degree at all, or even high school. If somebody graduated from a great university, that may be an indication that they will be capable of great things, but it's not necessarily the case. You know, if you look at people like Bill Gates or Larry Ellison, Steve Jobs, these guys didn't graduate from college. But if you had a chance to hire them, of course, that would be a good idea. Looking just for evidence of exceptional ability, and if there's a track record of exceptional achievement, then it's likely that will continue to contribute. You know, if you think of like what is education, like you're basically downloading data and algorithms into your brain, and it's actually amazingly bad information with education. It's like it should be like this huge tool. Like the more you can gamify the process of learning, the better. And I think unfortunately, like a lot of education is very board-driven. You've got someone standing up in kind of lecturing people, and they've done the same lecture 20 years in a row, and they're very excited about it. And that lack of enthusiasm is made to the students that they're not very excited about it. They don't know why they're there. Like, why are we learning this stuff? We don't even know why. In fact, I think a lot of things people learn are probably different points from learning. They never use it. Well, you have to say, like, I think going to stand back and say, well, why are we teaching people these things? And we should tell them probably why we're teaching these things. Because a lot of kids just in school are kind of puzzled as to why they're there. I think if you can explain the why of things, then that makes a huge difference to people's motivation. And they understand purpose.
But you know, the why of things is extremely important because you know our brain is evolved to not to discard information that it thinks has relevance. So then, if on the one hand you're being asked to memorize or learn say formulas, but you do not know why this is the case, then you have this cognitive dissonance of it seems irrelevant, but I'm being told to remember it, so I'll be punished. so I better remember it. But so the why of things is very important, and using various educational tools to solve that problem, like using math or physics or economics to solve that problem, is far more engaging than teaching the tools.
So how would you educate your 5 boys?
Actually, I created a little school.
What kind of school? Could you describe to us?
Sure, it's called Ad Astra, which means to the stars. That's maybe a bit different from most other schools, is that there aren't any grades. There's no like grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 type of thing. And making all the children go in the same grade at the same time, like an assembly line. You know, because some people love English or languages, some people love math, some people love music. And different abilities, different times. It makes more sense to cater the education to match their aptitudes and abilities. I think that's one principle. Another is that it's important to teach problem solving, or teach to the problem, not to the tools. Let's say you're trying to teach people about how engines work, or you could start by a more traditional approach would be to say, well, we're going to teach you all about screwdrivers and wrenches. This is a very difficult way to do it. A much better way would be like, here's the engine, now let's take it apart. How are we going to take it apart? Oh, we need a screwdriver. That's what the screwdriver is for. We need a wrench. That's what the wrench is for. And then a very important thing happens, which is that the relevance of the tools becomes apparent.
And you want to keep them away from regular schools?
No, I just didn't see that the regular schools they weren't doing the things that I thought should be done. Like, those 2 principles, they weren't adhering to those principles. So I thought, well, let's see what we can do. Maybe creating a school will be better. I actually hired a teacher from the school they were at, who also agreed with me that there was a better way to do it. I mean, I hated going to school when I was a kid. It was torture. So the fact that they actually think vacations are too long, like they want to go back to school. Yeah, nothing. I know. I care a lot about the truth of things and trying to understand the truth of things. I think that's important. If you're going to come up with some solution, then the truth is really, really important. I think that sometimes they're just like the things that seem quite clear and obvious to me, and I don't understand why they are so obvious to everyone.
things I realized is that before the routine, I wasn't successful because of who I was. Like, and a lot of y'all, for real, here's what you gotta stop doing. You hold people to the fire when they don't do what they're supposed to do, but you give yourself a pass. You gotta stop holding other people to the fire. You gotta hold yourself to the fire. And I realized that without a schedule, I was the one that was messing up my life. And I realized I needed a schedule because I wasn't the brand to get me where I wanted to go, if that makes sense. That version of Eric Thomas would never make me a 1%. I sat down with Warren Buffett, 3 things that through my mind. I never really realized where his money came from. So the first thing I did was I was like, yo, his money comes from investments. Well, what happened was when he was 12 years old, his father gave him his first brand and let him make an investment. So I realized he's not getting up early in the morning just to get up in the morning. What he says he does is he reads. He doesn't just read books. That's not what he does. He reads financial reports. So this dude was telling me he read a financial report of General Motors in 1964. And I'm thinking why would you be reading 14, 15, I don't remember what year it was. It wasn't the 60s. But to his point, he was reading the document, the financial, listen to me. He's a financial genius. What was he reading? Finances. For real, y'all be coming up to me like, yo, E, what you reading? Why? You trying to be a motivational speaker? You trying to be the next Martin Luther King? You trying to be the next Mother Teresa? Why are you trying to read what I'm reading? What are you trying, you trying to impress somebody? Why are you reading what I'm trying to read if you're not trying to be me? He was not reading Mother Teresa. He wasn't reading about leaders. He was reading a financial report from 1964 General Motors. Why? Because General Motors had one of their successful financial years in 1964. And so he was looking for the clues of what were they doing specifically in 1964 that can be duplicated in 2014. That's what he was looking for. So a lot of you getting up early because ET get up early, but you getting up early for no reason. You just up early, right? When you get up that early, guess who else gets up that early? People who work out. So I'm with Rochelle, and I'll be going back and forth with Rochelle. And Rochelle be hitting me up E, what you doing? I just had to say to Rochelle, Rochelle, I ain't trying to be funny. I'm not on what you want. I'm working out to be healthy. You get paid. You're going to have a different intensity than I have. So I put a lot of emphasis in leadership. I am a personality guy. I change people's professional and personal life. That's what I do. So be careful that your routine is pointing to where you're trying to get to, and you're not wasting time. So I'm looking at Warren Buffett. He says he reads 6 hours a day. He reads financial documents 6 hours a day. That's the first thing he does. 7 days a week, 6 hours. But watch this. When you read something for 6 hours times 7, that's 42 hours, right? That's 42 hours a week, right? I don't know how many hours that is a year, but guess why he makes the best financial decisions? Because all he's doing is financial stuff. That's he putting in 10,000, 20,000, 40,000, 50,000 hours. When he started hitting 40, 50, that's when he started blowing up as a 1%er. So what I'm trying to tell you is what happened. It took all those years of getting all that information, all those years of studying all that stuff, all those years of putting in that work. And then finally all that stuff was, that knowledge was compound interest. And then he started making certain decisions that people thought was rare. It wasn't rare. It was that all that time finally caught up to his decision making. He became finances. So every move he made was all these years of studying and being boom. So what a lot of you doing wrong, to CJ's point, if you're gifted in 3 areas, then that means you won't have to get 30,000 hours just to be like basically a master. But what if you did one thing and got 30 hours of information in just that one area? You guys got 10,000 in 3 different areas. So while you got 10,000, I got 40, 50,000 in one area. What? Speaking. And guess what the disc is? The disc is still going further into a personality. So the routine is important because eventually it's going to make you a beast. That's why you need routine. Because you can't trust yourself not to get off track. That routine is going to keep you on track and make you a 1%.
The important thing is to decide, is to be able to define which ones you can come to an intelligent decision on and which ones are beyond your capacity to evaluate. You don't have to be right about thousands and thousands and thousands of companies. You only have to be right about a couple. I met Bill Gates on July 5th, 1991. We were out in Seattle. And Bill said, you've got to have a computer. And I said, why? And he says, it's going to change everything. And I said, well, will it change whether people chew gum? And he said, well, probably not. And I said, well, will it change what kind of gum they chew? And I said, well, then I'll stick to chewing gum and you stick to computers, you know? I don't have to understand all kinds of business. There's all kinds of business I don't understand. But there's thousands of opportunities there. I did understand the Bank of America, you know, and I'll be able, I'm able to do that. I'm able to understand some given percentage. But Ted Williams wrote a book called The Science of Hitting. And in The Science of Hitting, he's got a diagram, shows him at the plate. And he's got the strike zone divided into 77 squares, each the size of a baseball. And he says, if I only swing at pitches in my sweet zone, which he shows there, and he has what his batting average would be, which is 400. If he had to swing at low outside pitches, but still in the strike zone, his average would be 230. He said the most important thing in hitting is waiting for the right pitch. Now he was at a disadvantage because if the count was 0-2 or 1-2 and so on, even if that ball was down where he was only going to bat 230, he had to swing at it. In investing, there's no called strikes. People can throw Microsoft at me and, you know, you name it, any stock, General Motors, and I don't have to swing. And nobody's going to call me out on called strikes. I only get a strike called if I swing at a pitch and miss. So I can wait there and look at thousands of companies day after day, and only when I see something I understand, when I like the price at which it's selling, and if I swing, if I hit it fine, if I miss it, it's a strike. But it's an enormously advantageous game, and it's a terrible mistake to think you have to have an opinion on everything. You only have to have an opinion on a few things. Let's just imagine that when we finish, I'm going to let each one of you pick out the car of your choice. Sounds good, doesn't it?
Financial industry is two things: debt and taxes. Debt and taxes, and that's where fake starts. 1971, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, and the U.S. dollar became dead.
I directed Secretary Conley to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
And we still tell kids to go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, and get out of debt. Now, who tells them to do that? That's the most ridiculous thing there is.
The book starts and it says, lie number 1, save you money, will make you rich.
Yeah, everyone, you know that.
All taught that.
Yeah, because they can print it. Why would you save it? Why would you work for it if they can print it? And faster than you can work for it. And number 2, they keep dropping the interest rates on it. You know, Japan still has zero interest rate policy. And the Japanese are the biggest savers in the world. And I'm Japanese, 4th generation. They're not too bright. Why do you keep saving when they're printing it? You know, and when I'm in Japan, that's what I mean by fear. They're so afraid because the Japanese, they're a good culture, but they do as they're told.
Very conformist.
Very conformist, very conformist. So they just do as they're told, and then they just save money, and their government, this guy Abenomics, is just printing trillions of it and buying ETFs of it, and they don't know what to do because they're afraid. They're afraid they might make a mistake. They're good little students in school. Go to school, get a job, don't make mistakes.
And that's what school conditions people to do,
Correct.
is to not get mistakes.
Correct.
Get an A on the test, show up and do your homework. But to be a great entrepreneur and investor and a great rich person, you have to engineer mistakes into your life.
Well, the reason rich don't work for money is number 1, expensive tax. See, there's 3 kinds of income: earned, portfolio, passive. So earned income is if I get a job, that's earned. If I'm a doctor or a programmer, that's earned because I'm working. If I buy, let's say, Apple for $10 and I sell it for $20, that's portfolio capital gains. But passive income, which is cash flow. So it's not. So these guys are screaming right now in America, tax the rich. I said, good luck. Because most of the guys complaining, they don't know there's 3 kinds of income. And the rich don't have jobs anyway. They have assets. And so the average schmo out there, poor guy, send the kid to school, they don't learn it. There's that newspaper article about Jared Kushner, and he explains how the Trumps and the Kushners don't pay taxes and make millions of dollars. And the reporter couldn't understand it because our schools will never teach you that 3 types of income.
And they judged him and say they're wrong and it's cheating. And we see that over and over again. Amazon not paying taxes. What do you say to people when they come up and say, Robert, it's not fair. It's not fair they're not paying taxes.
Well, there's always 3 sides to a coin, heads, tail to the edge. So which side of the coin are you on? From my side, it's fair. But this is the difference. Everybody can do the same thing I do. Because the tax laws are for everybody. We don't say, well, the tax laws are only for the rich. No. The tax laws are for everybody to use if you have the right financial education. And the reason I'm an advocate of financial education, without that education, you have to pay taxes. You see, very few people will buy what I do, make $1 million and pay 0 tax. And my rich dad taught me that playing Monopoly. That's how it started. 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel. Or the McDonald's for me. Right about it. McDonald's, Ray Kroc. McDonald's is in the real estate business, so they sell hamburgers, but they buy real estate, so they pay no taxes. This guy Bezos was $16 billion. How much tax did they pay on the $16 billion?
And that's all legal anyone can do it.
Everybody.
But most people lack the education. So Jared learned about money when he was a kid by watching his father or watching these people invest in real estate and said, wow, not only do you get to make the money, you get to keep the money. That's a big problem a lot of people don't understand. They think, oh, look how much money I made, but how much did you keep?
The school teachers will never tell you that because they don't know it. My poor dad has it. And they think the rich are crooks. The rich just play by different laws. The rules are the same, but you have to do what the government wants you to do.
サイコパスの人生相談の会なので、あんまり人情がよくわからない、人の気持ちがよくわからない僕がですね、それはこういうことじゃないでしょうかというふうにですね、ちょっと理屈中心でこの中皆さんの相談に乗っていくという会です。答えは簡単です。じゃあどっちが悪いのかというふうに聞かれたら僕の答えシンプルです。常識のない妹が悪い、それに決まってるんですよね。三名学がすごいんじゃないんです。三名学はデタラメでインチキなんです。お母さんすごいんです。真面目に不安になってないと思いますね。うるさい、俺に命令するな。こんばんは、3月7日岡田敏夫です。今日はもう最初ですね、ちょっと呼びかけなんですけどもですね、ですね、3月9日の火曜日あってですね、午後1時からですね、NHK の BS プレミアムでですね、禁断の惑星っていうですね、SF 映画があるんですよ。でこれ録画した方がいいよっていう話なんですけど、これの話だけちょっと前説でさせてください。3月9日火曜日のですね、午後1時からですね、放送します。禁断の惑星って SF 映画は、かなり古い、1956年ぐらいかな、SF 映画なんですけどもですね、見どころは、一つはこのロビー・ザ・ロボットっていうですね、おもちゃ屋とかでもですね、よくいますよね、これ。古いSF 映画に出てくるやつなんですけど、こいつのですね、登場した、SF 映画なんですよね。で、何がいいのかって言って、これロビー・ザ・ロボットの登場シーンなんですけども、博士にですね、人間をレーザーガンで撃てる。手に持ってるレーザーガンで人間を撃てるというふうに命令されると、この頭の中にちょっとショートしてるんですね。アニメーションで入ってるんですけども、頭の中でバリバリとショートしてですね、撃てなくなっちゃう、フリーズしちゃう。でこのままですね、人間を殺せという命令をしたままだと回路が焼け切れてしまうので、博士はじゃあもう取り消していくんですけど、つまりロボット工学の3連奏というですね、有名なものがあるんですけど、それが初めて入った SF 映画でもあるんですね。で当時のハリウッド、1950年代のハリウッドの SF 映画っていうのはあんまりこういう科学性とか SF 性にこだわらない SF 映画と言いながらも、ファンタジーの世界が多かったんです。だから平気でですね、人間を殺すロボットが出てきたりですね、そういう人類を支配したコンピューターというのが多かったんですけどね、1950年代の半ばぐらいに割とね、いい SF 映画が何本か出てきた時代があるんです。その一つなんですね、禁断の惑星です。デザイン、このロビー・ザ・ロボットのデザインしたのはですね、アメリカ生まれですね、日本人のですね、ロバート・木下という方ですね。多分お父さんとお母さんが日本人としてアメリカに移民して、でそこで生まれた人だと思うんですが、あんまりね、ロバート・木下の詳しい情報僕も知らないんですけど、で確か第二次大戦中は日本人の収容所ですね、日系人の悪名高い、アメリカと日本が戦争した時に日系人が入れられたという収容所にそこに放り込まれて、で戦後帰ってきて10年ぐらい経ってからようやくハリウッドに復帰できたと思います。でその復帰してからの作品なんですね、禁断の惑星という。 で、与えた影響は割と多いです。禁断惑星、例えばこの、出てくるですね、モンスターが井戸の怪物、つまり人間の潜在意識が具現化して、で宇宙船のですね、乗組員に襲いかかるんですけど、この井戸の怪物がもともとはですね、その探検に行った惑星の何百万年昔に滅びた、宇宙人たちが残した装置というか、ものなんですね。でそこから出てくるんですけども、この何百万年も前の宇宙人、滅びてしまった宇宙人の遺跡から井戸の怪物という人間の潜在意識のですね、怪物が現れるっていうのは後にですね、富野周期のですね、伝説巨人イデオというアニメの中でですね、何百万年か何億年か前の滅びたですね、第六文明の宇宙人たちがイデという無限の力を残して、でそれがその、今生き残っている人たちに襲いかかるという話になって、富野監督に認めてるですね、イデオの元にいた禁断の惑星ですと言ってるんですけど、そういうですね、影響を与えた。あとね、未来少年コナンのですね、下がですね、未来少年コナンに出てくるですね、3D レーダーなんですけども、これ太陽灯の回ですね。で上の方が禁断の惑星のワンカットです。でちょっと分かりにくいんですけど、この人が覗き込んでるのがガラスの中にいくつもの球体が入って、その球体がそれぞれ違う方向に回ってるんです。これ 3D レーダーなんですよ。でこれが世界の SF 映像史上初めて表示された 3D レーダーなんですけど、これやっぱり宮坂駿も見ててですね、このイメージで作ってるんですね。だからアニメーションに与えた影響もものすごく大きいです。でその他に言えばですね、宮崎駿以外で言えば、これ上が禁断の惑星です。で、禁断の惑星で主人公たちが宇宙船に乗ってると、ちょうどその、太陽の前をですね、惑星を隠して日食みたいなショックが起きるんですね。でこのカットは後にですね、 SF 映画「エイリアン」でノストロモ号がですね、救難信号を引いていくときにですね、太陽の、ショックが起きる、日食が起きると引用されてます。こういうふうにですね、割とSF 映画にですね、名作、名場面として引用されることが多い映画とかなんですよ。あとね、あんまりいいか悪いかで言ったらそんないいわけでもないんですけども、主演やってるですね、アダムス船長です。アダムス艇長っていうのがレスリー・ニールセンで、このレスリー・ニールセン、1950年代から70年代ぐらいまではこういう真面目な役が多かったんですけども、80年代になってコメディの切り替えたんです。で、フライングハイとかですね、これは裸のガンをそうなんですけど、そういうのに出るようになってから急にこう人気が出たんです。あるあるなんですけども、日本でもですね、昔は、ウルトラマンとか仮面ライダーに出て役者さん一生そのイメージで見られるみたいです。今はもう違うんですね。今はいわゆる戦隊ものとか仮面ライダーのイケメン俳優の登竜門みたいになってるんですけど、日本でも1960年代、70年代ぐらいまでは特撮番組に出るともう一生そのイメージで他の役が来ないことよくあったんですよ。昔のアメリカのテレビシリーズのスーパーマンの役者さんもですね、それ以外の役が来なくて、アルコール中毒になっちゃうとかいろんなあったんですけど、そういう時代の人ですね。だから真面目な人でいい役者なんですけど、80年代に思い切ってコメディに切り替えてから割と人生成功した人がいます。その他ですね、禁断の惑星はメカニックの複雑さもですね、かっこいいですし、あとね、やっぱ数百万年前に滅びた異星人の運命の凄さ、表現、あとはもうやっぱ案外しっかりしてるですね、SF 描写、科学描写がすごい素晴らしい作品なので、3月9日火曜日のですね、午後1時ですね、宣伝になっちゃってますけどもですね、禁断の惑星ぜひ見てくださいというか、ぜひ録画しておいてくださいね。よろしくお願いします。じゃあここから今日の本題いきましょう。今日はですね、月に1回のですね、皆さんの人生相談をですね、サイコパスの僕がやるんですが、本来だったらそうか、こいつをロビザロボットよりもこれを出しておいてですね、お揃いですね。サイコパスの人生相談の回なので、あんまり人情がよくわからない、人の気持ちがよくわからない僕がですね、それはこういうことじゃないでしょうかというふうにですね、ちょっと理屈中心でこのまま 皆さんの相談に乗っていくという回です。で、今日のですね、相談ジャンルですね。一応8つジャンルがあります。割と多いのは恋愛と家族ですね。恋愛と家族に関するもの、あと仕事と就活、人生、学校ですね。あと犯罪や裏社会、将来とか不安について、あとはアニメについてと、あと僕についていろいろ聞かれているものがあるので、この辺をですね、全部まとめてですね、無料限定プレミアムの方で語っていこうと思います。で、お便り採用者にはですね、一応ステッカー用意してます。今回ね、ちょっと印刷が間に合わなかったんですけども、エヴァンゲリオン新作記念ということでですね、ビックリマン風のですね、シールをですね、イラスト屋風に仕上げる。イラスト屋風でこいつらいなかったよなと思ってですね、一応作っていました。サイコパスさんと、あと中二病さんですよね。俺の方はいいんですけど、ここから先イラスト屋風とイラストでちょっとアニメ業界とかやってみようと思うので、問題があったら嫌なので、なんとなくそういうネーミングにしてますけど、後ろキラキラになってます。今すみません、印刷中で、今週中に印刷上がりますので、来週ぐらいから発送始まると思いますので、よろしくお願いします。ということでですね、じゃあ行きましょうか。恋愛と家族と恋愛というテーマからいってみますね。よいしょ。これはもういいや。読むときにですね、ちょっとまとめを皆さんの前に出しておきます。なんとなく見ててください。江永さん、50代女性です。妹の会話が漫画口調で嫌です。私の妹もいわゆるアニメオタク。私は現在50歳でイラストレーター。妹は48歳で会社員をしています。壁から半分顔を出してチーっていうふうに口で言ったり、顔を背けるときにもフンっていうふうに擬音を出したりですね、笑うときはクスクスというそうです。はははとか文字を読むように笑うと、いきなりほっぺたを叩かれ虫が止まっていたからっていうふうに言ったりですね、いきなりエイと突き飛ばすなど妹は漫画の表現を実際にします。48にもなってですね。なんでそんなことするのと聞けば面白いからと答えました。私は周りの人間も、漫画のように面白がってもらえると考えているようです。妹は受け入れると思ってるんですね。職場ではゲームやアニメの好きな若者に神と呼ばれて楽しくやってるとのことです。親戚の法事や他人の前ではだいぶ抑えてありますが、私も最近年を取ったのか、この妹の行動や言動が嫌で仕方がありません。注意をすると、私はオタクだからとイライラします。妹にその口調を直せというのはおかしいでしょうか。私が気にしすぎなんでしょうかということですね。痛いっすねとかですね、女子高生までだろうもうその年ではとか、尼寺に放り込むとかみんな勝手なこと書いてるのこういうふうなものを書いたときにどこの部分を気にするのか、僕にしてみれば例えば最後に私が気にしすぎなのでしょうかとか、口調を直せというのはおかしいでしょうかというふうに書いているので、そういう部分に引っかかっちゃうんですけども、前にですね、朝日新聞の人生相談のコーナー担当してたんですよね。で、3年ぐらい前に辞めたんですけども、割と自分でもお気に入りの仕事だったんですよ。で、一時期ですね、この朝日新聞の人生相談、月に1回ね、回答が回ってくるんですけど、この回答を作るのかでですね、ブレインストーミング制度っていうのをやったことがあったんですね。で、2、30人ぐらいを1箇所に集めて、会議室に集めて、もう新聞社から来た相談文をプリントアウトしてみんなに配るんですね。で、全員に配ってですね、で、僕はホワイトボードの前に立って、とりあえず思ったこと言ってみてとか、こういうふうに言うんですよ。すると、大体2、30人、それなりにですね、こういうことが喋りたいという人を集めてるんですけども、最初の5分間ぐらいはやっぱりその第一印象っていうのかな、まずこういうふうにしたらいいのに、みんないきなり回答から入るんです。答えを言っちゃうんです。こうすればいいと思う、こうすればいいと思う、こんなふうに言ってやればいいっていうふうに言うんですけども、大体それって2、30人が全員自分なりの答えだと思うんですけども、3、4種類ぐらい出るパターン尽きちゃうんです。例えば そんなの気にしなければいいんだよとか、あと、ガンと言ってやれというのは言い方が違えど2、30人集まってもですね、せいぜいパターン4種類か5種類なんですよ。でこれが、ホワイトボードに僕それを書いていくんですけども、このパターンが尽きた頃から第2段階に入っていくんですね。そもそもこの人は何を聞きたくて新聞に質問してきたんだろう。この場合で言うとですね、この江永さんはそもそもこの人は僕に何が聞きたくてお便りフォームをしてきたんだろう。それなんかね、その考え出すのってある程度他の人の意見っていうのが出てきて、それを自分も聞いて一回落ち着いてからなんですね。でホワイトボードに書き出しました。多分だから今だったらこれだったらほっといてもいいんじゃないかとか、48で痛い48で痛いですねだったら回答にならないので、じゃあどうすべきなのかっていうのをホワイトボードに書いてると、みんなそれをじーっと見てるとだんだん考えるようになるんです。で考えたらそれでもやっぱ最後の一文に引っかかるんですよね。妹にその口調を直せというのはおかしいでしょうか、私が気にしすぎなのでしょうか。そうすると質問の人もこの回答を望んでるわけじゃないんです。私がおかしいのですかって言ったらおかしいですよっていう返答を望んでるわけではないんですよ。これはやっぱり妹変ですよねとか、あと周り会社でなんかそれなりにやってるみたいだけども、私がこれにイライラするっていうのは別に変なことじゃないですよって確認のための疑問であって、この部分にやっぱり答えても割としょうがないと思うんですよね。だから気にすぎだよ気にするなで相談者を納得する答えになるはずないんですけども、なんでこんな質問ってシンプルなことを2、30人みんなで一斉に考えるわけですね。でその次のステップで現実的な問題点の掘り出しというのをする。例えば親戚の前ではそれしないわけですね。抑えてるから、実はこの妹さん48歳といえども、みんな今聞いてたら多分痛い人だと思ったと思うんですけど、社会的に全然問題ないんですよ。実は妹側から見たら問題ゼロなんですよね。だって抑えれるんですから。で会社ではうまくやってるわけですから、それはどんなふうに神が崇められてるか知りませんけどもですね、そもそも妹にとってこのお姉さんが悩みだと思ってることを直す理由は何もないんです。言っちゃえばお姉さんには素の自分を見せているのに、お姉さんだけイライラしてる。私も誰にも彼にもともとやってるわけじゃない、48にもなったと言われるけど、ちゃんと会社でも抑えてるし、親戚の前でも抑えてるじゃんっていうのが、つまり妹から見たらなんかトラブルの原因はお姉さんなんですね。怒りっぽいお姉さんなんですよ。で、ところが江永さんと相談してる人から見たら妹に問題があるという双方この姉に問題がある、妹に問題があるというふうに見えてるところが、このトラブルの原因であってですね。なので答えとしてはもう別居しかないですよ、僕が思う50のお姉さんと48の妹が同居してたら、それはなんかね喧嘩にもなるから別居すりゃいいんじゃないですかっていうのが、もうここしか僕が思う答えないんですよ。じゃあもうあとはこの別居しかないっていう答えにどのようにして納得してもらうのかって話になります。でこの別居しかないっていうのは江永さんも分かってるはずなんですよ。もう分かってるはず。でも踏み切れないのはここなんですね。最後の一文でですね、私がおかしいのでしょうか、気にしすぎなのでしょうかって聞いてるのはですね、どっちが悪いかはっきりさせたいんですよ。これもね女の人の相談あるあるで、現実的な対処の方法は分かってるけど、その前に一回どっちが悪いのか岡田先生はっきりさせてくださいって。いや僕別に権威でも何でもないんですけど、やっぱりどっちが悪いのかっていうのをはっきりさせたい気持ちはあるでしょうね。で答えは簡単なんですよ。じゃあどっちが悪いのかというふうに聞かれたら僕の答えシンプルですよ。常識のない妹が悪い、それに決まってるんですよね。それシンプルなんですけども、ところがですね、じゃああんたが悪いんだからっていうのを盾に取ったら、別居する時のプロセスで交渉がなんかできなくなっちゃうんですね。話し合いが進まないと。なのでだからそれは妹が悪いですよと僕は思います。で別居しかないでしょう。でも、お姉さんの方が悪者になって、私がもう限界だからもう悪いけど別居させてっていうふうに言うしかないと、落としどころとしてはそうだなと思うんです。 どっちが悪いかというと確実に妹が悪いんだけども、でも妹にしてみたら別居したい理由何もないんですよね。お姉さんが我慢してくれればいいだけだっていう妹が。でお姉さんの方だけがもう限界だと思ってるんだから、もうここは悪者になって妹に頭の一つも下げて、あんたがいやなんかあんたが甘えてるのはよくわかるんだけど、もう私限界だから悪いけど別居されてっていうしかないだろうと。だからもう説得とかですね、その説明じゃないですよね。この段階で交渉なんです。いかに妹を追い出すか、もしくは江永さんの方が出ていくのか、とりあえずどっちでもいいですよ。江永さんがそんなに病んでそんなに限界なんだったら多少自分が損だと思っても損をかぶって自分が出ていく方が平和だと思いますけどもね。それでサイコパスも全然そうだって言ってるのは、これ完全に理屈だけで作った答えなんですよね。漫画でいうとネームみたいなものですから、ネームとか小回りみたいなもので論理性だけで作ってます。でここにですねどんな決め顔を見せるのかとかですね、なんかどんな表情を描くのかで、漫画の面白さって出てくるじゃないですか。説得力というのも出てくるんですけども、その辺ね僕は不得意なんですよね。どんな声で言ったらいいのか、どんな言い回しで言ったらいいのかっていうのよくわかんないんですけど、基本的にはもう私無理って言ってですね、妹さんにですね交渉するのがいいと思います。こんな感じのですね、ちょっと理屈っぽい人生相談っていうのをやります。じゃあ次です。
ごちそうさまでした。ごちそうさまでした。ご視聴ありがとうございました。また夜お会いしましょう。それではさようなら。